All right, so we've got something really interesting here. So, as you guys know, Bernie Sanders went on the Joe Rogan Experience about a week ago. It was really big. It happened out of nowhere. Everyone was really surprised it happened. No one really had any sort of indication that this was occurring. Nobody knew this was going to happen. It just pops out of nowhere. And wow, it's crazy. And in the beginning, a lot of right wing fans of, Joe Rogan were really pissed off about this, about him having Bernie on and yada yada. And what has happened now is the pretty much every single form of feedback has just pretty much catapulted. So what I mean by feedback is like to dislike ratio, view count, comment section, all those kinds of things have really been in favor of Bernie Sanders. Okay, they have really, really, really been in favor of Bernie Sanders. So, if we look at these numbers here, for example, it's already at 8.682 million views. That's almost 9 million views in, what looks to me to be about, 9 days. In less than 10 days, you're talking about almost 9 million views. I think once this is given a little bit more time, I think this will probably second only to the Elon Musk interview. Now, as you can see from the like to dislike bar, 320k likes, 38k dislikes, an insane like to dislike ratio. And if you haven't gone to the video and click like on it, I don't know what you're doing, but go do that immediately. But the like to dislike bar will continue to grow. And, there are a ton of comments. If you go into the comment section of people, who are saying, like, after listening to Bernie Sanders, I understand what he's saying. And he's not so, crazy. And, I like what Bernie's saying. I've changed my mind. I'm supporting him, etc., etc. The only way to describe this occurrence is a unmitigated success. And it has really been an unmitigated success, 100%. And, if we go to his, sort of popular videos here, you see, if you sort it by most popular, he's already top 10, okay? He's at what, like 8 right now? He's at the 8 spot right now. It's been 1 week, guys. 1 measly week. Okay, it's been about 9 days. He's in the top 10 already, okay? He's going to swoop, he's probably going to swoop the 5. I see him overtaking all of these. And by the way, why is Ben Shapiro at 13 million? Why? I really don't know. But, I certainly think it'll swoop up to the 4th spot, and it could quite possibly take the 2nd spot. So let's try to get it to that 2nd spot. Obviously, the 1st spot would be the best, but to be quite honest with you, I don't see it taking over the 24 million one, especially because that Elon Musk one was a bit legendary of an interview, and a lot of stuff went down there, and a lot of news reported on it. But let's try to get that bad boy to the 2nd spot, okay? So this is sort of the success markers, if you will, of his appearance on Joe Rogan. Now, as I said earlier, this was sort of a surprise, and as I also said earlier, no one really had an indication this was going to happen. Now, there's an exception to that. There is a progressive YouTuber that you guys all know of. He's a big seltzer sellout, doesn't have any legs, who did know about this, and that's because he's the reason for setting this up. Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk is the one who set up a conversation between Joe Rogan and Bernie Sanders, okay? Do you have any idea how insane that is? I mean, honestly, dude, Kyle keeps his ego pretty tame, I would say, outside of the whole best debater thing. He's pretty much kept his ego, pretty much non-existent, honestly. Dude, I guarantee if any of you guys were in his shoes, you'd be going crazy, because we're talking about the dude who's founded the Justice Democrats, who, never gets any credit for it. The Justice Democrats, the group that birthed AOC and Ilhan Omar, and all of the stuff that dominates the news cycle every single day of the freaking world is dominated by, the squad, Justice Democrats. He's a co-founder of that. He's responsible for so much of all that stuff. And then now he also facilitated the conversation between Joe Rogan and Bernie Sanders, which already almost has 10 million views. Holy smokes. But Joe Rogan revealed this himself, and I believe Kyle also revealed this on his Kyle and Corn podcast with Corin. Although that, I think he briefly might have mentioned it, I forgot. But here Joe Rogan actually explains it. And Joe Rogan also explains, and he really sort of exclaiming it more than explaining it, how he is left wing, he's not right wing. So after we hear him out, we're actually going to talk about that. We're going to sort of swivel over to that. But let's hear out Mr. Rogan.
Like, I've noticed that after this Bernie Sanders thing that I did. So anybody listening to this, if you're saying this, I am not right wing at all. So stop saying that. It's silly. It's foolish. I've interviewed right wing people. I am 100% left wing. The only thing that stops me from the only things that I disagree with about left wing people is support for the military, support for police, and the Second Amendment. That's probably it. Everything else across the board, I lean way left. In terms of, like, Bernie Sanders made a ton of sense to me, and I would 100% vote for him. Tulsi Gabbard is my favorite. I mean, I'm not a right-wing person. So this nonsense, like, so many people were saying that, that Bernie Sanders spent this time on a right-wing podcast. I'm like, what? What are you saying?
Sure. And don't you think he weighed the pros and cons of, like, it was an opportunity for him, and I think everyone thought it was a win as well.
I don't think he had any idea who I was.
Really?
Yeah. I think it was one of his young staff members who's friends with Kyle Kulinski, who is a really good left-wing progressive talk show guy on YouTube. And Kyle hooked it all up. And this idea that, it's bad for someone to talk to people it's foolish.
Yeah.
There's a weird thing that's going on right now.
I thought it was a great platform for him to, like, get his ideas out there and to be heard in something other than just sound bites.
Yes.
That could be taken out of context.
It's a great platform, I think, for anyone who's running for anything to have a long-form conversation. And it's good for us, too, because we get to find out who they really are. You really can't.
All right, so there's a bunch of stuff I want to talk about there. So first, to address him revealing that Kyle Kulinski was the facilitator of all this. First of all, I want to know in the comment section, do you think Bernie knew Joe Rogan prior to this? I'm generally not sure, but he is a really old guy, and obviously he's not very online or online at all for that matter. But, I have a feeling he might have known who Joe Rogan is. Joe Rogan is incredibly popular. He's sort of known in, like, every sphere possible, MMA. He had Fear Factor and all this other stuff. It's really remarkable just how much stuff he's really known for. I don't know, but that's pretty remarkable, man, that Kyle actually did that. And again, I'm surprised he's able to keep his ego pretty tame and in check with all this stuff that he's done. Because, man, you're talking about the founder of Justice Democrats. Because while Cenk was a co-founder, really, honestly, I feel like Kyle really only did that because Cenk had the huge platform, and so he was like, oh, okay, we can co-found it. But really, I think the birth of the idea, the seeds of the idea, were from Kyle. I think that basically, I want to say that the platform's probably all his, honestly. And certainly, I think the sort of founding idea was all his. And then, they birthed the squad, and then you've got, this, like, wow, man, wow, that's crazy. I don't know what I would do if I were him, man. I don't even know what that's crazy. And I'm sure you guys have no idea either, because that's just so much. It's very overwhelming. You know what I'm saying? That's like, wow, you did all of that stuff? Damn. I don't know how else to put that, but man, that is crazy. Now, to get to the second portion of this, right, which is talking about Joe Rogan's comments on where he exclaims that he is left-wing. He says, I am not right-wing. I agree that Joe Rogan is not right-wing. I don't know where I'd place him because, to be honest with you, he flip-flops depending on the guest that he has, which is really annoying. But, for example, remember, I did a video when, I think it was a couple months back or like 4 or 5 months back or something, but he was talking about AOC's 70% marginal tax rate plan on people who make over $10 million a year. And he came out against it, and he was like, I don't even think he understood what a marginal tax rate was or how it worked. But, obviously, as you guys know, it's not like all of your money, 70% of your money's gone. Basically, up until $10 million in that year's salary. And by the way, there's only about, the IRS estimates that there's like 16,000 people who make that much money. So 16,000 people make that much money. And people who make like 50 G's are like, oh my God, it's crazy. But like 16,000 people make that much in a year out of like over, 360 million in the country. So it's just like, what are you doing? It's stupid. Like, you're acting as if this is going to affect like everyone or something. It's like, no. But anyways, he didn't understand how it works clearly. And so basically, on your year's salary, if you make 11 million, let's say, only 1 million of that is taxed at 70%. The other 10 million is taxed at whatever the highest rate is, which is, I think 38%. So that's how that works. And I don't think he understood that, but he came out against it. He said, that's not going to happen. I don't support that, yada, yada, yada. Bernie Sanders, he's even weirder on Bernie Sanders because I also did a video on this. If you guys recall, a long time ago, like 6 months back, he did a video where he was on a podcast and he said that, like, he changed his opinion on Bernie Sanders. I think he might have even said he lost respect for Bernie Sanders because I think there was some troll that was, like, trying to troll him or something like that. And so Bernie, like, fakes being on a phone call or something, and then he's like, and Joe Rogan's response is like, wow, you really did that? I can't trust you anymore. You're not real. Like, really, bro? Really, dude? You serious? Bernie's, like, faking a phone call to avoid a troll, and you're telling me that it's like, are you kidding me, dude? That's what changes your opinion on Bernie Sanders? Go back and watch it, guys. That's literally what he said. His thoughts are, like, really stupid. That's the problem. And so, he'll support universal basic income and all this stuff, and then he's against a 70% marginal tax rate of money made over $10 million because he's rich himself. And this is what I hate about rich liberals. They never, like, when it comes to, like, really getting down to business, they always fail to do so. Same thing with Bill Burr. Remember, I did a video on Bill Burr as well when he went after that. He's like, oh, what? What are you talking about? It's like, oh, I don't support that. Bill he's never made $10 million in a year in his life. That ish wouldn't even affect him. But he's still whining and moaning about it. Like, you guys are stupid. You're dumb. You're genuinely dumb. Like, I don't know what to tell you, Bill. I don't know what to tell you, Joe. But if you, like, I don't know. So how do you peg down Joe when he's simultaneously, crapping on Bernie, and then now that he comes on his podcast, oh, yeah, he made a lot of sense. But he says the same stuff everywhere, man. So, what really changed your opinion? You're also a fan of Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard supports mostly the same stuff that Bernie does. So I don't really understand, what your sort of, how your take goes there. Support for Tulsi is weird too, just because it's like the enthusiasm that he had for Tulsi was sort of, I don't know, out of left field, I would say. And when it comes to what was even weirder, and you could kind of see my reaction to it, is, when he says that the only things I don't agree with the left on is, like, support for the military. Joe Rogan, like, one of Joe Rogan's, like, seeming principles political principle seems to be non-interventionism, which is what I don't understand. I've literally seen clips from back in, like, 2014 where he talks about how, like, we're in these stupid, just basically long-term, conflicts that are going on that are never ending. And that's got to be a deciding factor and a big factor, an influential factor as to why he's supporting Tulsi Gabbard, because that's, Tulsi's main thrust is, foreign policy and stopping those never-ending conflicts. You know what I'm saying? So the point kind of being here, I don't know what he's so all over the place, and I just fail to understand the guy. I'm really confused by Joe Rogan. And then he says support for the police. I don't even know what that means. I don't know if he's referencing the whole ACAB movement. If you know what ACAB means, you know what it stands for. And that's like the whole, like, Chapo, trap house thing or whatever. There's only a very small sort of meme subsect of the left that really believes in that you really only find in, like, online Reddits, like subreddits. That's not really anything, so I don't really know what he means by that. It doesn't make sense. And so some of those positions that he's exclaiming as to, like, oh, those are the only things that I don't really, support on the law. It's just like, what? And this is the problem that I have now. He's definitely not right-wing, I'll tell you that. Joe Rogan is not right-wing, for sure. 100% he's not right-wing. But, I don't know. To say that he's left-wing, honestly, is also maybe a bit sort of, I don't know, maybe a bit charitable. I would say he's more like he's a flip-flopper is what I would say. It depends on the guest he's speaking to and, whatever sort of, whatever he's, cooking that day. But it's just like, I genuinely don't know if we should say that he's left-wing per se, because as exemplified by his stupid, remarks about Bernie Sanders, his dumb remarks about AOC. And by the way, that again, I hate rich liberals for that reason. Once it really comes down to, like, actually raising the taxes like you advocate for, you run away like a coward, because that's what you are. Because you have a lot of money. You don't want to give that money up because you're a greedy, son of a you-know-what. So, anyways, I don't know. Let me know in the comment section. Do you think Joe Rogan is left-wing? He certainly purports to be from time to time. But, nevertheless, the interview was really interesting. I'm really glad it's doing so well. It's been an unmitigated success for Bernardino Sanders. And, also let me know your thoughts about it being revealed that Kyle Kulinski of Secular Talk was the one to actually set this all up. That is quite remarkable and honestly quite the achievement.